The morning sun barely touched the city streets when 17-year-old Lily and her mother stepped out of their old sedan. They had been driving for nearly 3 hours, leaving their small town before dawn to reach the Carmichael Concert Hall. Lily's white cane clicked softly against the pavement as they walked toward the enormous building that housed one of the country's most respected music programs. Today was the audition day for the National Youth Orchestra's Summer Intensive. Young musicians from across the state had gathered here, each hoping to earn one of the 30 spots available. The competition was fierce. The opportunity was once in a lifetime. Lily's mother gently touched her shoulder. "We're at the main entrance now, sweetheart. There are a lot of steps ahead." "I'm ready, Mom," Lily said, her voice steady despite the butterflies dancing in her stomach. Inside the concert hall, the atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. Dozens of teenagers clutched instrument cases and sheet music. Some practiced quietly in corners. Others paced back and forth, their anxiety visible on their faces. Parents whispered words of encouragement. The air smelled of old wood and fresh coffee from a small refreshments table near the entrance. Lily and her mother found their way to a bench along the side wall. As they sat down, Lily could hear fragments of conversations around her. A girl nearby was running through scales on her violin. 2 boys were comparing their audition pieces. Someone dropped their music folder and papers scattered across the floor. "Do you see her?" a voice whispered not far from where Lily sat. "Yeah, the one with the cane." "Is she actually here to audition?" Another voice responded. "Must be lost or something. Maybe her mom's auditioning?" Lily had heard these kinds of whispers her entire life. She had learned to let them roll off her back like water off a duck's feathers. Today was too important to let doubt creep in. Her mother leaned close. "Do you want me to get you some water?" "I'm okay, Mom, let's just go register." They made their way to the registration table at the front of the lobby. Behind the table sat a woman with a clipboard and beside her, a man whose presence seemed to command the entire room. His silver hair was perfectly styled. He wore an expensive-looking suit. His fingers, long and elegant, tapped impatiently on the table as he reviewed some papers. This was Victor Volkov. Anyone who knew anything about classical piano knew his name. He had performed in concert halls around the world. His recordings had won awards. Critics called him a living legend. And today he was one of the judges who would decide Lily's fate. The woman with the clipboard smiled warmly. "Name, please." "Lily Chen. I'm here for the piano audition." The woman glanced at her list. "Oh yes, I see your name. You're number 47. It'll be about 2 hours before we call you." Victor Volkov looked up from his papers. His eyes moved from Lily's face down to the white cane in her hand. His expression shifted from casual interest to obvious skepticism. "Excuse me," he said, his accent marking him as someone who had learned English later in life. "You are here to audition? For piano?" Lily turned her face toward his voice. "Yes, sir." "That's correct." Volkov set down his pen slowly. "And you understand what this program requires? The level of technical skill needed? The ability to learn complex pieces quickly?" "I do, sir." He let out a short laugh that didn't sound amused. "Young lady, I mean no offense, but piano performance at this level requires precise visual coordination. Reading music, watching your hands, maintaining proper posture while following a conductor. Surely you can see the challenge here." The lobby had grown quieter. Other students and parents were watching now, their conversations fading as they sensed something uncomfortable unfolding. Lily's mother stepped forward, her voice tight. "My daughter has been playing piano for 13 years. She's more than capable of—" "Mom, it's okay." Lily touched her mother's arm gently. She turned back to where Volkov sat. "I understand your concern, sir, but I'd still like the opportunity to audition. That's why I'm here." Volkov exchanged a glance with the registration woman who looked distinctly uncomfortable. He shrugged, picking up his pen again. "Very well. It is an open audition, after all. You're welcome to try." His tone suggested he thought she would be wasting everyone's time. "Don't expect special treatment or accommodations, though. You'll be judged by the same standards as everyone else." "I wouldn't want it any other way," Lily said quietly. As she and her mother walked back to their bench, Lily heard the whispers grow louder. Some were sympathetic. Others were curious. A few were unkind. "Did you hear that? Volkov basically told her she couldn't do it. I feel bad for her, but I mean, he has a point, doesn't he? This is going to be awkward." Lily sat down and folded her cane, resting it against her leg. Her mother was silent beside her, radiating protective anger. Lily could feel the tension in her mother's body, could hear the slight shake in her breathing. "Mom, really, I'm fine." "That man was incredibly rude, Lily. We could file a complaint. We could let my playing speak for itself," Lily interrupted gently. "That's what I came here to do." Over the next 2 hours, Lily listened as other pianists performed. The audition room was close enough that sound carried into the lobby when the doors opened between performers. She heard a boy stumble through a Chopin piece, his nerves getting the better of him. A girl played with technical precision but no emotion, hitting every note correctly but telling no story. Another pianist rushed through their piece like they couldn't wait for it to be over. Lily had learned to listen differently than other people. When you can't see, your ears become sharper, more attuned to every nuance. She heard things others missed, the slight hesitation before a difficult passage, the way someone's tempo dragged when they were uncertain, the difference between notes played correctly and music played truthfully. Her mother had packed sandwiches, but neither of them felt like eating. They sat together waiting as the numbers were called one by one. 42, 43, 44. Number 45, David Kim. Number 46, Rachel Thompson. Lily's heart began to beat faster. This was it. Years of practice, of early morning lessons with Mrs. Rodriguez, of memorizing pieces measure by measure, of refusing to let her blindness define what she could or couldn't do. It all came down to the next few minutes. Number 47, Lily Chen. Lily stood. Her mother guided her toward the audition room doors. As they walked, Lily could feel every eye in that lobby on her back. She heard someone whisper, "Good luck, you'll need it." She heard someone else say, "At least she's brave." The doors opened. The audition room was large, with high ceilings that would carry sound beautifully. Lily could sense the space around her, could feel the presence of the judge's table in the center of the room, could hear the slight echo that told her where the walls were. "Please state your name and what you will be performing today," Volkov's voice called out from the judge's table. There was no warmth in it, just professional distance tinged with that same skepticism from before. Lily walked to the center of the stage, her mother's hand on her elbow until she felt the piano bench beneath her fingers. "Lily Chen, I'll be playing Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 14, first movement." A pause. Then Volkov's voice again, this time with an edge of mockery. "The Moonlight Sonata, very conventional choice. And I assume you've memorized it." "Yes, sir." "Of course you have. Well then, Miss Chen, let's see what you can do. Please proceed." Lily sat down on the bench. She let her fingers hover over the keys for just a moment, finding her bearings, centering herself. She took one deep breath and then she began to play. The first notes fell from Lily's fingers like drops of moonlight. Soft, gentle, almost fragile. The opening of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata had been played millions of times by millions of pianists, but something about the way Lily approached it made it feel new, fresh, like hearing it for the very first time. Her right hand carried the melody, while her left hand created a rolling pattern underneath. The triplets moved like water, steady and flowing, never rushing, never hesitating. Each note was placed exactly where it belonged, with a precision that came not from reading sheet music but from something deeper. From memory. From feeling. From the heart. In the lobby outside, the usual chatter had died completely. Students who had been scrolling through their phones looked up. Parents who had been reading newspapers set them down. Everyone moved closer to the doors, drawn by the sound spilling out from the audition room. Inside, at the judge's table, Viktor Volkov had gone completely still. The pen he had been holding hung frozen in midair. His assistant, a younger woman named Patricia who had worked with him for 5 years, had stopped taking notes. Her mouth had fallen slightly open. The third judge, a conductor named Mr. Harrison, leaned forward in his chair. "Hot." He had judged hundreds of auditions over his career. He knew when someone was simply playing notes and when someone was making music. This was definitely the latter. Lily's body swayed gently with the phrases. Her face reflected every emotion in the piece. When the melody climbed, a small smile touched her lips. When it fell into darker territory, her eyebrows drew together slightly. She wasn't performing for the judges or the audience. She was lost in the music itself, living inside each measure, each phrase, each delicate shift in harmony. The beauty of the Moonlight Sonata is its simplicity. There are no crashing chords, no racing scales, no flashy techniques to impress people. It's just pure emotion, wave after wave of it, building slowly like the tide coming in. Many young pianists rush through it, eager to get to the good parts. Others play it too mechanically, hitting all the right notes but missing the soul underneath. Lily did neither. She let the music breathe. She understood that the spaces between the notes were just as important as the notes themselves. She knew that Beethoven wrote this piece during a time of deep personal struggle, when his hearing was failing, when he feared losing the one thing that gave his life meaning. That knowledge, that understanding lived in every phrase she played. Her mother stood in the wings, tears streaming down her face. She had driven Lily to piano lessons 3 times a week for 13 years. She had sat through countless recitals, practices, and performances. But she had never heard her daughter play quite like this. There was something different today, something that went beyond technical skill. Lily was pouring her entire soul into this performance, holding nothing back. The melody moved into a new section, slightly more urgent, more questioning. Lily's fingers moved across the keys with impossible grace. Her left hand maintained that steady rolling pattern, while her right hand sang out the melody. There was no hesitation, no searching for keys, no uncertainty. She knew this piano as well as she knew her own heartbeat. In the front row of the audition room, where a few students had been allowed to observe, a girl who had auditioned earlier began to cry. Not from sadness, but from the sheer beauty of what she was hearing. The boy sitting next to her, who had been confident about his own performance, suddenly felt very small. This wasn't just good. This was extraordinary. Volkov's expression had changed completely. The skepticism, the mockery, the dismissive attitude, all of it had melted away. In its place was something like wonder, something like recognition. He had spent 40 years of his life devoted to piano, had played on the greatest stages in the world, had recorded albums that critics called masterpieces. And here was this 17-year-old blind girl from a small town, playing in an audition room, creating something that made his chest ache. Patricia leaned over and whispered to him, "Victor, are you all right?" He didn't respond. He couldn't. He was too busy listening, too busy realizing how wrong he had been, too busy understanding that he had nearly denied this girl the chance to play because of his own prejudices and assumptions. The music built toward its emotional center. Lily's playing grew slightly more intense, though still controlled, still measured. The melody climbed higher, reaching for something, yearning for it. Then it began its descent, settling back into that gentle rolling pattern. It was like watching the sun rise and fall, like seeing a wave crest and return to the ocean. In the lobby, parents were pulling out their phones, trying to record the sound through the doors. Students who had been rivals moments before now stood together in shared awe. One mother whispered to another, "Who is that playing?" The other mother shook her head. "The blind girl. The one Volkov said shouldn't be here." Back in the audition room, Lily moved into the final section of the first movement. This was where many pianists made their mistakes, either from exhaustion or from letting their guard down. But Lily remained focused, present, aware of every single note. The music grew softer, more intimate, like a secret being shared. The melody seemed to ask a question over and over, never quite finding an answer. Mr. Harrison found himself holding his breath. He had heard this piece performed by some of the finest young pianists in the country. None of them had played it like this. Lily wasn't showing off. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was simply telling a story, honest and true, about longing and loss and beauty found in darkness. The technical aspects of her playing were flawless. Her tempo never wavered. Her dynamics were perfectly controlled, moving from whisper soft to gently emphatic and back again. Her touch on the keys was light but assured. But what made her performance special wasn't the technical skill. It was the emotion, the understanding, the way she seemed to know exactly what Beethoven had felt when he wrote this music over 200 years ago. Volkov realized he was leaning so far forward in his chair that he was practically standing. He forced himself to sit back, but his eyes never left Lily. He was watching not just her hands, though they were mesmerizing, but her entire body, the way she breathed with the phrases, the way her shoulders moved with the larger musical shapes, the way she tilted her head slightly as if listening to something beyond the notes themselves. This, he thought, is what music is supposed to be. This is why I fell in love with piano in the first place. The final phrases arrived. Lily's right hand traced out the melody one last time, delicate and questioning. The left hand continued its gentle rolling pattern underneath. And then in the last few measures everything grew softer and softer, like a light slowly dimming. The final notes hung in the air, fragile and beautiful before fading into silence. Lily's hands remained on the keys for a moment. She took a breath, then carefully lifted her fingers and placed her hands in her lap. Her head bowed slightly, as if she was returning from a long journey. The audition room was completely silent. Not a single person moved. Not a single person breathed. It was as if the entire space had been frozen in time. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy with emotion. And then, from somewhere in the back of the room, someone began to clap. Slowly at first, then faster. Within seconds, the entire audition room erupted into applause. The students who had been observing jumped to their feet. Patricia was clapping so hard her hands hurt. Mr. Harrison was wiping his eyes with his handkerchief. Out in the lobby, people who hadn't even heard the full performance began clapping too, responding to the energy pouring through the doors. Lily's mother covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs of pride and relief. At the judges' table, Viktor Volkov stood up slowly. His face was pale. His hands were trembling slightly. He looked like a man who had just witnessed something that fundamentally changed his understanding of the world. He cleared his throat, trying to find his voice. The applause continued, showing no signs of stopping. Finally, he raised his hand and the room gradually fell silent. Every eye turned to him, waiting to hear what the great Viktor Volkov would say to the blind girl who had just played like an angel. Viktor Volkov stood at the judges' table, his hand still raised for silence. The applause had finally died down, but the energy in the room remained electric. Every person waited to hear what he would say. Some expected criticism, because that was what Volkov was known for. Others hoped for praise. No one knew quite what to expect. Lily sat at the piano bench, her hands folded in her lap, her face turned toward the judges' table. She could hear Volkov's footsteps as he moved away from his seat. The sound echoed through the quiet auditorium. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He was walking toward the stage. Her mother, watching from the wings, felt her heart start to race. Was he going to confront Lily? Was he going to criticize her in front of everyone? She took a step forward, ready to intervene if needed. Volkov reached the edge of the stage and stopped. For a long moment he simply stood there looking up at Lily. His face had lost all traces of the arrogance and mockery from earlier. Instead, he looked almost vulnerable. Lost even, Miss Chen, he finally said, his voice softer than it had been before. May I approach? Of course, sir, Lily replied quietly. Volkov climbed the steps to the stage. His expensive leather shoes made soft sounds against the wood. He walked slowly like a man approaching something sacred. When he reached the piano, he stood about 6 feet away from Lily, giving her space. In my 40 years as a professional pianist, he began, and his voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat and started again. In my 40 years as a professional pianist, I have heard Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata performed thousands upon thousands of times. By students, by professionals, by the greatest pianists in the world. I have played it myself in concert halls from New York to Tokyo to Vienna. The room was so quiet that people could hear their own heartbeats. What you just did, Volkov continued, was not merely playing notes on a piano. That was music in its purest form. That was emotion. That was truth. His voice grew stronger now, more certain. You did not just play the notes. You understood them. You lived them. You became them. Lily felt heat rise to her cheeks. She hadn't expected this. She had prepared herself for criticism, for dismissal, for being told she was good but not good enough. She had not prepared herself for praise from one of the world's most respected pianists. Thank you, sir, she managed to say. That means a lot coming from you. No, Volkov said firmly, and he took a step closer. Do not thank me, not yet, because I owe you something first. I owe you an apology. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. Viktor Volkov was not known for apologizing. Ever. His reputation included stories of him reducing students to tears with his harsh criticisms, of walking out of performances he deemed unworthy, of refusing to work with musicians he considered beneath his standards. When you came to the registration table this morning, Volkov said, his accent growing thicker with emotion, I looked at your white cane, and I made a judgment, a cruel, unfair, ignorant judgment. I decided before you played a single note that you could not possibly be a serious pianist, that your presence here was somehow a waste of everyone's time. Lily's mother, still standing in the wings, felt tears streaming down her face again, but these were different tears than before. I laughed at you, Volkov continued, and now his voice was shaking. I mocked you. I suggested you did not belong here. I treated you with disrespect and dismissiveness because I could not see past my own narrow understanding of what a pianist should be, what a musician should look like. He paused, and in that pause Lily could hear him taking a deep breath, steadying himself. I was wrong, Miss Chen. Profoundly, deeply, shamefully wrong. And I am sorrier than words can express. The auditorium remained frozen in stunned silence. No one had ever heard Viktor Volkov speak this way. No one had ever seen him humble himself like this. Lily turned her face more directly toward his voice. A small smile touched her lips. Mr. Volkov, I appreciate your apology. Truly I do. But I should tell you something. I've heard comments like yours my whole life. People see the cane before they hear the music. They see what I can't do before they learn what I can do. That does not make it acceptable, Volkov said quickly. No, it doesn't, Lily agreed. But it makes it familiar. And you know what? Every single person who has ever doubted me has given me a reason to practice harder, to get better, to prove that their assumptions were wrong. Her smile grew wider. So in a strange way, Mr. Volkov, you helped me today. Your skepticism made me want to play my very best. And I think I did. A few soft laughs rippled through the audience. Even Volkov managed a small smile, though his eyes were still glistening with emotion. You are far more gracious than I deserve, he said. But please allow me to continue, because my apology is only the first thing I need to say to you. He walked closer now until he was standing right beside the piano. You have reminded me of something I had forgotten, something I lost somewhere along the way in my career. Music is not about technical perfection. It is not about playing every note at exactly the right volume at exactly the right time. Those things matter, yes, but they are not what makes music meaningful. He gestured toward the empty auditorium seats. Anyone can learn to play the notes. With enough practice, enough dedication, enough time, most people can achieve technical proficiency. But what you have, Miss Chen, is something that cannot be taught. You have the ability to communicate emotion through sound, to tell a story without words, to make people feel something deep in their souls. Mr. Harrison, still sitting at the judges' table, found himself nodding in agreement. He had been thinking the exact same thing. Your blindness, Volkov continued, is not a disability in music. If anything, it is a gift. Because you cannot rely on your eyes, you have developed your other senses to an extraordinary degree. You hear things others miss. You feel things others overlook. You connect with the music in a way that sighted pianists often struggle to achieve. Lily had never thought of it quite that way before. Mrs. Rodriguez, her longtime teacher, had always told her that her blindness didn't have to hold her back. But Volkov was saying something different. He was suggesting that her blindness might actually be an advantage. So here is what I want to say to you, Volkov said, and his voice became formal now, almost ceremonial. You are not just accepted into the summer intensive program. That much is obvious. You are the most talented young pianist I have heard in years, perhaps decades. More gasps from the audience. Patricia at the judges' table was scribbling notes frantically. I would like to offer you a full scholarship to the program, Volkov continued. Every expense paid, and beyond that, if you are willing, I would be honored to work with you personally, as your mentor, as your teacher. I believe you have the potential to become one of the great pianists of your generation, and I want to help you reach that potential. Now it was Lily's turn to be speechless. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. A full scholarship was more than she had dared to hope for. Her family wasn't poor, but they weren't wealthy either. The program's tuition would have been a significant burden, but personal mentorship from Viktor Volkov, that was something money couldn't buy. That was something that could change the entire trajectory of her life. Lily started, then stopped. She took a breath and tried again. I don't know what to say, Mr. Volkov. This is beyond anything I imagined. Say yes, Volkov replied simply. Say you will accept. Say you will let me try to make up for my terrible first impression. Say you will share your gift with the world, because the world desperately needs to hear it. Lily's mother couldn't contain herself any longer. She rushed onto the stage, her shoes clicking against the wood, and wrapped her arms around her daughter. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. "Oh, my baby girl." Lily hugged her mother back, and now she was crying too. All the tension, all the fear, all the anxiety of the day came pouring out. She had done it. She had proven herself. She had turned skepticism into admiration, mockery into respect. "Yes," she said, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. She pulled back and turned toward Volkov. "Yes, Mr. Volkov, I accept. All of it, thank you. Thank you so much." The auditorium erupted into applause again, even louder than before. Students were cheering. Parents were clapping and wiping their eyes. Patricia had given up on taking notes and was simply applauding along with everyone else. Volkov extended his hand toward Lily, then remembered and spoke instead. "I look forward to working with you, Miss Chen. I think we are going to create something beautiful together." As the applause continued, as her mother held her close, as Viktor Volkov smiled at her with genuine warmth and respect, Lily felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just about making it into a summer program. This wasn't just about proving doubters wrong. This was the beginning of something bigger, something that would change not just her life, but maybe the lives of others who had been told they couldn't do something because of how they looked or what they could or couldn't see. The audition was over, but Lily's real journey was just beginning. 3 months had passed since that unforgettable audition day. The summer intensive program had turned out to be the most challenging and rewarding experience of Lily's entire life. She had arrived at the program as a talented pianist from a small town. Now, as the final week approached, she felt like a completely different musician. The program housed 30 young musicians in a converted mansion near the concert hall. Every morning started at 7 with breakfast, followed by individual practice sessions, then group rehearsals, master classes, and theory lessons. The days were long and exhausting, but Lily loved every minute of it. Her roommate, a violinist named Chen who played with fierce passion, had become a close friend. On their first night, Chen had asked nervously, "Is there anything special I should know? About, helping you around the room?" Lily had smiled. "Just don't move my stuff without telling me. I have a system. Everything has its place." "Got it," Chen had said with relief. Within days, they had developed an easy rhythm. Chen would describe things Lily couldn't see, the view from their window, what people were wearing, the decorations at social events. Lily would listen to Chen practice and offer suggestions about phrasing and dynamics. They balanced each other perfectly, but the real transformation in Lily's playing came from her sessions with Viktor Volkov. True to his word, he had taken her on as his personal student. 3 times a week, they met in a small rehearsal room for 2-hour lessons that often stretched to 3 or 4 hours because neither of them wanted to stop. The first lesson had been intimidating. Lily had shown up 15 minutes early, her hands sweating, her heart racing. When Volkov arrived, he had simply said, "Play something for me. Anything you like. I want to hear how you approach different styles." She had played Chopin, then some jazz, then a contemporary piece her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had introduced her to. Volkov listened without interrupting, his breathing the only sound beside the music. When she finished, he had said, "You have phenomenal natural instinct, but I hear places where you are holding back, places where you are being too careful. We are going to work on helping you trust yourself more, on playing with courage." Over the weeks that followed, Volkov pushed her harder than anyone ever had, but he never pushed with cruelty. Every criticism came wrapped in encouragement. Every correction was followed by praise for what she had done right. No, that phrase needs more space," he would say. "Let it breathe. You are rushing because you are nervous about the next part. But trust yourself. The next part will be there when you arrive." Or, "Beautiful tone, Lily. Now do it again, but this time, imagine you are telling a secret to your closest friend. Intimate, personal, just between the two of you." He taught her to think about music in new ways, to consider the story behind each piece, to research the composer's life and times, to understand what emotions they were trying to convey. One afternoon, they were working on a particularly difficult Rachmaninoff piece. Lily kept stumbling over the same section, her fingers tangling, her frustration growing. "I can't get it," she said, pulling her hands away from the keys. I've practiced this section 100 times. Why do you think you keep missing it? Volkov asked calmly. Because it's hard?
No, because you have decided it is the hard part.
You arrive at those measures already expecting to fail. Your body tenses. Your hands tighten. You make the very mistake you are trying to avoid. He had her play a different section of the piece, an easier part, then gradually work her way back to the difficult passage without stopping. Do not think about it being hard, he instructed. It is just the next phrase, just the next few notes. Nothing more. Something clicked. The section that had tormented her for days suddenly flowed smoothly. She played it once, then twice, then a third time perfectly. There, Volkov said, and she could hear the smile in his voice.
You see?
The notes did not change. You changed. But Volkov didn't just teach her about piano. He taught her about being a musician in the world, about handling pressure, about dealing with audiences who might doubt her, about staying true to her artistic vision even when others had different opinions. People will always have opinions about you, he said during one lesson. Some will love you. Some will hate you. Some will think you are inspiring. Others will accuse you of using your blindness for attention. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is the music. Stay focused on that and you will be fine. He also shared stories from his own career, about times he had failed, about performances that had gone wrong, about his own struggles with doubt and fear. When I was your age, he told her once, I was terrified before every performance. Absolutely terrified. I would throw up backstage. My hands would shake so badly I thought I would not be able to play, but then I would sit at the piano and the fear would disappear. The music would take over. That never changes, by the way. I still get nervous. I just hide it better now. These conversations made Lily realize that Volkov was not the cold, arrogant person she had met at the audition. He was simply someone who had built walls around himself, and he was slowly letting those walls come down. As the summer progressed, word spread about the blind pianist who was studying with Volkov. Other students would find excuses to walk past the rehearsal room when Lily was practicing. Visitors to the program asked to hear her play. Local reporters requested interviews. At first, the attention made Lily uncomfortable. She didn't want to be known as the blind pianist. She wanted to be known simply as a pianist. Period. She mentioned this to Volkov during a lesson. I understand your feelings, he said thoughtfully, but here is something to consider. Your blindness is part of who you are. It has shaped your experience, your perspective, your approach to music. Denying it would be like denying a fundamental part of yourself. The question is not whether people notice it. They will. The question is what story you want to tell about it. What do you mean? You can let it be a tragedy, something that held you back. Or you can let it be part of your journey, something that made you stronger. You can let it define you, or you can define it. The choice is yours. Lily thought about this for a long time. She realized Volkov was right. She couldn't control what other people noticed or thought. She could only control her own narrative. So when reporters asked about her blindness, she started speaking about it openly. About the challenges, yes, but also about the unique way she experienced music. About how losing her sight had taught her to listen more deeply. About how limitations often force us to develop strengths we didn't know we had. The other students in the program had grown to respect and admire her. At first, some had been resentful of the attention she received. But after hearing her play, after watching her work harder than anyone else, after seeing her stay late in the practice rooms long after others had gone to bed, that resentment melted away. Chen told her one evening, "You know what's amazing about you? You never complain. You never ask for special treatment. You just do the work. It makes the rest of us want to work harder too." Now, as the final week of the program arrived, Lily felt both excited and sad. Excited because the closing gala was approaching, a formal concert where selected students would perform for an audience of donors, music professionals, and members of the press. Sad because this magical summer was coming to an end. During their last regular lesson before the gala, Volkov had an announcement. "I have been making some phone calls," he said casually, though Lily could hear something else in his voice. Something that sounded like suppressed excitement. "I have contacts at several concert halls and orchestras around the country. I played them recordings from your performances here. They are very interested in hearing you play." Lily's heart skipped. What does that mean? It means if you are interested, I believe we can arrange a small concert tour for you. Perhaps 6 or 8 performances at various venues. Nothing too overwhelming for your first time, but enough to introduce you to the professional world, to show people what you can do. A concert tour, professional performances. This was what every young classical musician dreamed about. This was the door opening to a real career. Are you serious? Lily whispered, completely serious. You have the talent, Lily. You have the discipline. You have something special that audiences need to hear. The question is, are you ready? Lily thought about her journey, about the little girl who had lost her sight at age 7 and refused to let it stop her from playing piano, about the countless hours of practice, about Mrs. Rodriguez, her first teacher, who had believed in her when others doubted, about her mother, who had driven her to lessons and recitals and auditions without ever complaining, about this summer, this program, this incredible opportunity that had changed everything. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. Good, Volkov replied, and she could hear the pride in his voice. Then let us make sure your performance at the gala is unforgettable, because there will be people in that audience who can open doors for you, important people. We want to show them exactly what you are capable of. As Lily left the rehearsal room that day, walking with her cane through the familiar hallways she had learned to navigate so well, she felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. The gala was in 3 days. 3 days to prepare for a performance that could launch her career. 3 days to prove that the girl who had been mocked at her audition deserved every opportunity she had been given. She thought about Viktor Volkov, who had transformed from skeptic to mentor. She thought about Chen and the other students who had become friends. She thought about everything this summer had taught her, and she knew with absolute certainty that she was going to give the performance of her life. The night of the gala arrived with a mix of anticipation and nervous energy that filled every corner of the Carmichael Concert Hall. Outside, a line of expensive cars dropped off guests in elegant dresses and sharp suits. Inside, the lobby buzzed with conversation as music donors, professional musicians, critics, and proud parents gathered for the culminating event of the summer intensive program. Lily stood backstage in a simple but elegant navy blue dress her mother had helped her choose. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and someone from the program had applied just a touch of makeup. She could hear the audience filtering into their seats, the rustle of programs, the hum of excited chatter. Her hands were trembling slightly. Not from fear exactly, but from the weight of the moment. This wasn't just another recital. This was the performance that could change everything. Nervous? A familiar voice asked. Lily turned toward Viktor Volkov's voice. Terrified, she admitted with a small laugh. Good, Volkov said, and she could hear the warmth in his tone. That means you care. That means you understand what is at stake. But let me tell you something, Lily. I have seen you practice every day for 3 months. I have watched you grow from an exceptional talent into something more, into an artist. You are ready for this. More than ready. What if I mess up? What if my hands shake? What if you simply go out there and do what you do best? Volkov inter. Upped gently. What if you stop thinking about all the people watching and just play? Just tell your story through the music the way you always do. That is all anyone can ask of you. Lily took a deep breath, then another. She nodded. You're right. Thank you, Mr. Volkov, for everything. For believing in me. For teaching me. For changing my life. There was a pause, and when Volkov spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. No, Lily, thank you. You changed mine, too. You reminded me why music matters, why any of this matters. Now go out there and remind everyone else. Chen appeared beside her, already in performance attire. You're going to be amazing, she whispered, squeezing Lily's hand. I can't wait to hear you play. The stage manager approached. Miss Chen, you're on in 5 minutes. Mr. Volkov has requested to introduce you personally. Lily's eyebrows rose. He's introducing me? Apparently so. First time he's ever done that for a student. As Lily waited in the wings, she heard the previous performer finish to enthusiastic applause. Then Mr. Harrison, the program director, took the stage to make announcements and thank the donors. His voice carried through the sound system, formal and professional. Finally, he said, and now, for our final performance of the evening, I'm pleased to turn the stage over to our distinguished guest judge and mentor, Viktor Volkov, who will introduce our closing soloist. More applause as Volkov walked onto the stage. Lily could hear his footsteps, could picture him standing at the podium under the bright lights. "Thank you," Volkov said, waiting for the applause to die down. "I have been privileged to work with many talented young musicians over my career, but every so often you encounter someone who reminds you what music is truly about, someone who plays not just with skill but with soul, someone who can make you feel something you did not know you were capable of feeling." Lily felt her cheeks grow warm. Her mother, sitting in the third row, was already crying. "3 months ago," Volkov continued, "I made a terrible mistake. A young woman came to audition for this program, and I judged her before she played a single note. I looked at her white cane and decided she could not possibly be a serious pianist. I mocked her. I discouraged her. I was, in short, a fool." A ripple of reaction moved through the audience. Some people shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward with interest. But this young woman with grace I did not deserve chose to prove me wrong. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with music. And what I heard that day changed me, changed my understanding of what music can be, changed my understanding of what is possible when talent meets determination meets pure heart. Volkov paused, and in that pause the entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce tonight's closing soloist. A young woman who has taught me more than I have taught her, a musician who I believe will be playing on the great stages of the world in years to come. Please welcome Miss Lily Chen." The applause was immediate and warm. Lily's mother was sobbing now, not bothering to hide it. Somewhere in the audience, a few people stood, and soon the entire auditorium was on its feet, giving Lily a standing ovation before she had even played a note. Lily walked carefully onto the stage, her cane tapping softly. She had practiced this walk dozens of times, counting steps, memorizing the path. When she reached the piano, she folded her cane and set it aside, then sat on the bench. The audience settled back into their seats. The hall fell silent. In that silence, Lily could feel everything: the weight of expectation, the hope of those who believed in her, the curiosity of those who had never heard a blind pianist perform, the love radiating from her mother somewhere in the darkness. She placed her hands on the keys, feeling the cool smoothness beneath her fingers. She thought about her journey, about being 7 years old and losing her sight, terrified she would lose music too, about Mrs. Rodriguez telling her that music was not about what you could see, but what you could feel, about every practice session, every recital, every moment of doubt overcome, about the audition 3 months ago, standing in this same building, facing skepticism and mockery, about Volkov's transformation from critic to champion, about this magical summer that had changed everything. And then she began to play. She had chosen to perform a piece by Ravel, Pavane for a Dead Princess. It was a piece of stunning beauty and deep sadness, requiring both technical precision and emotional depth. The melody was simple but haunting, like a memory of something precious that could never be recovered. From the very first notes, the audience knew they were hearing something special. Lily's playing had grown even more refined over the summer. Her touch was lighter, more confident. Her phrasing was more sophisticated. But most importantly, she played with an openness, a vulnerability that invited the listener into her world. The music flowed like water, sometimes gentle and calm, sometimes building with quiet intensity. Lily's body moved with the phrases, her face reflecting every emotion in the piece. She was not performing for the audience. She was sharing something deeply personal, offering them a glimpse into her soul. In the third row, her mother watched through tears. She thought about all the doctor's appointments, the specialists who had told them Lily would never see again. She thought about the music teacher who had said maybe Lily should consider a different hobby, something more suitable. She thought about every person who had underestimated her daughter, who had seen limitation instead of possibility. And she felt overwhelming pride. Viktor Volkov stood in the wings, listening. He had heard this piece performed by some of the finest pianists in the world, but none of them had played it quite like this. Lily had found something in the music that others missed. She had found the human heart beating beneath the notes. The piece moved toward its conclusion, the melody returning one final time, softer now, more distant, like someone walking away slowly. Looking back one last time, Lily played the final chord, let it hang in the air for a moment, then lifted her hands. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then the auditorium exploded with applause. The standing ovation was immediate and thunderous. People were cheering, whistling, some openly crying. The applause went on and on, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Lily stood and bowed, then bowed again, overwhelmed by the response. Flowers were brought to the stage. Volkov walked out and embraced her, whispering something in her ear that made her smile. Other students rushed onto the stage to congratulate her. Her mother somehow made it backstage and wrapped her in the tightest hug imaginable. "You did it, baby," her mother sobbed. "You did it." Later, after the reception, after countless congratulations and handshakes, after photos and interviews with local press, Lily found herself alone for a moment in a quiet hallway. She was exhausted but exhilarated, still processing everything that had happened. She thought about the girl who had walked into this building 3 months ago, nervous and uncertain, facing a famous pianist who had mocked her dreams. She thought about how easily she could have given up, could have let his skepticism become her own, but she hadn't. She had played. She had proven herself. She had turned doubt into belief, mockery into respect, barriers into bridges. And now, with concert tours being planned, with doors opening that she had only dreamed about, with a future stretching before her full of possibility, Lily understood something important. This journey had never really been about proving others wrong. It had been about proving to herself what was possible when you refused to accept limitations others tried to place on you. The white cane in her hand was just a tool. It helped her navigate physical spaces. But music was what helped her navigate life itself. Music was her voice, her vision, her way of touching the world and letting the world touch her back. Viktor Volkov found her in the hallway. "Ready to go celebrate?" he asked. "Ready," Lily said, smiling. As they walked toward the reception hall where her friends and family waited, Lily felt something she had not quite felt before. Not just pride or accomplishment, though she felt those too, but something deeper, a sense of belonging, a sense that she was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The famous pianist had mocked her. But the blind girl had played, and in playing she had changed not just minds but hearts, including perhaps most importantly her own.